Okay, so one of the first things I wanted to do when I first got into Gravity Sketch is I want to actually put a cube on the ground. So how do I do that? And that's a little bit of a challenge, it turns out. So what I'm going to show you is how I've figured out the best way for me to do this. And I don't know if there's a better way. If there is, someone could please share it in the comments. So first, let's look at this purple button right here that you can see. This purple button, which I'm kind of tapping, you can see it blinking. That's the tool button. And you see we have an ink, a stroke, a revolve, a surface, a volume, primitive objects, and viewpoints. And of course, primitive objects is the one that we want. Click on it once, we select it. Click on it twice, and this palette comes out. And I can actually grab that palette and move it. And now I've taken it away from the controller. See? So if I grab it and I hit this little red button, I close it. So again, going back into it, you'll see that the palette just is hooked to my controller and I can grab it and move it off. So if I just come here and I use the two trigger buttons, they're the two index finger buttons, with this cube set up this way, I can just drag out a cube, and you can see it's kind of a cube, and I can drag out a thinner one. I can drag out whatever proportions I want. But as you can see, that they're not actually, they're not aligned at all with the actual scene. And so that's the issue, right? So how do we fix that? Well, first we're going to go into this top button, which is going to be our main menu button. That's the blue one right here that's flashing. I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to go to my preferences. And over here in this beta area, I want to make sure this grid is turned on. It's got to be enabled. And I come back here, and I'll click here, and now I've turned the grid on. So that's a little high resolution. I'll make it down a little bit smaller, something like this. Okay. Now if I come back over here and I start to click and drag with the two index buttons, let me go ahead and I can tap that blue button again. I'll close that. And you can start to see that now I'm actually creating something that actually sits directly on the floor. And then it's really simple for me to tap the blue button again and turn off that grid. And now I've got this that I can move around. By the way, now that I've grabbed it, moved around, I want to put it back. I can just let go and hit undo, or I can grab and I can use the actual trigger button on the left hand, and that'll just drop it for me back where it was. So that's something to keep in mind. So the next question, you're saying, okay, that's great. I got this cube. Now I want to move the cube. So I'm going to do a different video on how to move things, but this one I'm going to show you how to edit it, right? So if I go in here and I right click on it and I move it up here, and then I use this blue button. See the little vertices? I'm going to tap on the blue button while I've got it grabbed. It's going to drop it back, and I've got these arrows here, which I can use to rescale the cube, and that's all I can do here. But notice if I do this one, it goes down below. So I don't want to do that. So that scales. But if I want to keep it on the actual floor plane, I'm going to have to do something else differently. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go over here, and while I'm in edit mode, I'm going to click on this convert to subdivision object. And when I do that, I get this panel pops up here. And if I turn the subdivision on, you see I get this weird thing, which I don't want. So I'm going to turn subdivision off, move this all the way over to the left. This is just the amount of subdivision that you're using, but I want to leave it off, right? So I just turn it off. And with it being off, now I'm going to click on this icon, which is restrict face movement. Now I can take that little sphere that grab sphere. And as you can see, because the top, if you look at the top, my joystick, the little that's blinking right now, I can move to the right and left. And when I move to the right, now I'm in vertex. So I can only select vertices of this. I go one more. Now I'm in the edges. So I can only select I can only add loops. So I just added a loop. I'm going to undo that on here. And then if I go all the way to the right, and now I have everything. And when I go to the edges, here's the edges, you can see that I can select an edge. And if I use this little purple thing, that's where I can add a loop to it. So that's what that was about. So anyway, so let's just go ahead and move it all the way so it's kind of a multi-select. I can select points. I can select edges, and I can select faces. So, and that's obviously what I want to do. With this turned off and I select it, notice that the face can go anyway, right? So I don't want that. I'll turn this on, I'll select the face and I can move it anywhere I want. And if I want to, I can turn on the grid and snap to different increments if I want, but I've actually turned the grid off currently, but I can turn it back on easily. So the key is that, we're just going to keep this in a low poly mode, even though we're in a subdivision surface model, but now I can move things around quite nicely. That's really the gist of this little lesson. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you. Bye.